New Age spirituality is regarded as somewhat feminine and is certainly by and large commodified. It becomes about, you know, purchasing a pair of leggings, purchasing a dream catcher or a crystal. It doesn't have that aspect of discipline that is about the ability to prioritize your spiritual state over your physical state.
Yes.
This is the deeper reality, what's happening in here. And when you start bringing up interdimensional travel and psychedelics, you start to recognize, yeah, no, this is an important space for me. Interesting too, the way that the arguments around sex and gender have altered, because, you know, for, you know, like the Andrew Tate phenomena has been an interesting one, but I've heard you talk about the sort of, you know, and certainly while there are outstanding crimes, I certainly wouldn't comment on any of those things and how they might play out. But if you leave a space in the culture where masculinity can be sort of embraced, loved, revered, celebrated, then different models are going to emerge that take up that territory, rather than looking at the masculinity isn't solely ugly.
It just shouldn't be connected to misogyny. The masculinity and misogyny, it shouldn't be that in somehow or another, in order to be masculine, you have to hate women. That's just so ridiculous. That's so dumb. That's not real masculinity either. That's a foolish version of it that is set up for children. It's set up for dullards. It doesn't make any sense. Like, true masculinity, like, first of all, what does that even mean? Like, just being whoever the fuck you are. And if you happen to be a man, there's going to be certain things that you have. You're going to have a certain amount of aggression. You have a certain amount of anxiety. You have protection instincts. And you've got to have control over as much of your body and mind as you can. And what's the best way to do that? Well, you'll have to experience adversity, and you have to execute with discipline. You have to be able to do that on a regular basis. If you don't, you're not going to trust yourself. You're not going to count on yourself. You're always going to have anxiety. You're always going to have to wonder whether or not you could pull through it. Like, one of the things about cold or sauna or exertion, physical exercise, is knowing you can force yourself to do it. Knowing you can force yourself to do it. These little battles of forcing yourself to do something. There's so many people out there that don't do that. They don't know whether they can force themselves to do something. They don't know how to not quit. They don't know how to push themselves when they don't want to.
Yeah, that's why there has to be a spiritual component to life. And that's why a culture that abdicates that responsibility and abstracts that reality becomes kind of nihilistic and celebrates meaninglessness. And it becomes only about furniture and an aesthetic. There's nothing real. It's got nothing behind it. We can sort of feel that now, I think, that it's been hollowed out from within. The institutions are hollow because there's no values there. Like I alluded to earlier, the idea of a sort of a potentially senile and decaying president is like the culture is unconsciously telling you what it is. Look, it's falling apart. There are no real values behind it. They'll say that a war is humanitarian when we know that most likely the imperatives are economic imperatives, and one way to find out will be to extract the economic imperatives, then you would find out. So like the service that I suppose that I don't pay enough attention to and sometimes give enough credence to is the possibility that you can reach individuals through a media like this and say that actually what you do is important, what you believe in, the way you treat yourself, the way you talk to yourself, the practices you undertake. I mean, when you bring in one of the Goliaths in that space, like Dave Goggins, someone who transformed themselves in ways I don't even understand, still from a 300-pound person on a couch to at the absolute ultimate end of what is possible to be militarily, is demonstration of that. And I suppose that what must be happening, as well as like the where you come at odds with the culture, it's observable. Like, you know, like the ivermectin moment. It's like, oh shit, what you said there, that the mainstream don't like that, push back and crackle. But like elsewhere, there must be thousands, millions of messages about self-discipline, awakening, do things for your body, eat healthily, awaken, take responsibility for yourself. Masculinity and femininity can cohabit successfully. It should never be about misogyny. All these ideas are reaching out there, and they're reaching people that wouldn't typically be getting, I would say, such nuanced takes on complicated ideas.
Signals, but people have to act on those signals, and that's the difference. There's a lot of those messages that are getting out there, but how many of them reach a person to the point where that person decides to act? The acting is what's most important, because the only lessons that you really generate from this stuff is actually engaging, actually taking the yoga class, actually going for the run, actually doing the CrossFit, actually doing jiu-jitsu, actually doing something. It's so hard to actually do something. It's one of the great problems that people have. And it's one of the reasons why there's so many hucksters out there that are selling motivation. There's so many people out there that they're motivational speakers. And meanwhile, they've done nothing. They've done nothing of great note, nothing of great accomplishment. And all they're doing is they're finding this thing that people desire, and they're feeding it to people. Like either giving a motivation. Those people, oftentimes you'll check in on them 5 years from now, 10 years from now. They're not doing anything any different.
Yeah, that's right. Because
action. You have to take action.
You have to take the action, and it usually involves suffering and sacrifice.
Yes.
And that's a hard thing to tell. People don't want that now, do they? They don't want that information. Like, you can tell people there's a quick fix and an easy way, but whether it's getting off drugs, becoming a stand-up comedian, or doing or accomplishing stuff in a martial art, normally it means like you, incrementally, day by day, hour by hour, session by session, you are going to experience a degree of suffering, whether it's physical or like early stand-up when you can't do it and you have to stand up in front of an audience and be shit and bomb in front of people, and then like, oh, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again. Like, that is unavoidable. And I suppose I don't want to only use the markers that are sanctioned as success, things that might bring you financial success, because God knows there are other ways of succeeding in this world, and truly, truly great people that don't enjoy the accolades of a culture that celebrates many, many things that I think are pretty vacuous. But on the level of the individual, as you say, if you're not willing to go to the mat or to the open mic or to the wherever it is you practice,
you got to do something. You got to take action. And so many people are just stagnant, and they don't know how to act, and they don't have experience doing it. And so they just stay home. And again, the disembodiment thing. They put on headsets, or they sit in front of the computer, or they sit in front of the television, or they sit in front of their phone, and they don't act. And you're going to be depressed. That's not good for you. It's not a natural, normal way for people to behave. And this thing that people do where they avoid discomfort, it sounds ridiculous, but then it just creates more discomfort. You don't realize that in embracing discomfort and forcing yourself to do something very uncomfortable that you can control, like an ice bath, like a sauna, like a run, like a workout, you are eliminating another form of discomfort. You can do that. It's one of the reasons why I've been able to mitigate all the stress and issues that come with success and with fame. It's like I fucking torture myself. I torture myself physically. I'm always working out. I'm always exhausted. I'm always taking ice baths. I was in the sauna before I got here today. I'm always doing something. Always. I never have a day where there's not some kind of struggle. If I have a day where I just lay around, I'm like, this is weird. Like, one day, like, it's one of the things that I have to do on vacation. When I get up in the morning, whenever I'm on vacation, the first thing I do is work out. I'm like, I gotta do this, otherwise I'm not gonna be able to enjoy this time off with my family. I gotta get up before everybody else, and I gotta work out hard.